welcome back. It's another zombie chat. And again, I'm joined by my friend Kat. I'm so excited. Thanks for joining me, Kat.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I'm so excited. It's more zombie stuff. You know, May, guys, was Zombie Awareness Month. And so during that month, we decided to do a zombie movie marathon. So we're continuing on with our zombie talk. We already had one chat, but today our chat's going to be about more movies from our marathons. And some of the movies we'll be talking about today include Little Monsters, a wonderful film, I Am Legend, Girl with All the Gifts, Army of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, plus many more because Kat watched a lot more than me. She watched so many flippin' things. I was like left behind in the dust. But like I mentioned, we already have a previous chat where we talked about Shaun of the Dead and also Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. So please go back and check that out if you want. I'll link it right up here. Also, another thing we'll be doing today is we are going to be ranking all of our movies from least favorite to favorite. So what made number one for each of us? You'll have to wait to find out. And we're going to be revealing my winner for my book giveaway, which we'll talk about at the end of the chat. But let's get into it. Let's get into the movies we watched and want to discuss today. And we're going to start off with another zombie comedy because our first chat, we talked about 2 zombie comedies. And then we're going to be picking back up with another one, Little Monsters from 2019. And quickly, let me just say the description. A washed up musician teams up with a teacher and a kid show personality to protect young children from a sudden outbreak of zombies. This film was wonderful. Oh my God, I loved it. And quickly, the ratings, 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, 59% on Metacritic, and 84% of Google users liked it. So the majority of people enjoyed this movie. I did. It was wonderful. What did you think about it, Kat?
Well, there's so many things to love about this movie, in my opinion. The zombies were perfect.
Yes.
Great makeup. It takes place on a kindergarten field trip, which is something I've never seen before. It does have a Shaun of the Dead kind of vibe to it, in the sense that in the very beginning, people are totally oblivious that there is a zombie outbreak happening. There's a little bit of whimsy in it. And I love the fact that there's a ukulele in it.
Yes.
I want to learn how to play the ukulele one day.
That'd be so hard, but so fun. It'd be so cool.
So what about you? Tell me what you liked about it.
Oh my God, there's so much to like. One, it was perfectly cast because the little boy main character, oh my God, they picked the perfect kid. He acted so perfectly. I mean, he didn't even seem like he was acting. So what a perfect little boy that they picked out to play the main role. And then, you know, the guy who plays his uncle, who's basically the main adult character besides the teacher, who's his crush. They had such great chemistry, the teacher and the uncle characters. So wonderful. Just this movie had a ton of heart. So although zombies eat brains and there was brains involved, because obviously that's what the zombies are going after, it's their main priority. Really, to me, the biggest part of this movie was heart. I just loved it. It oozed just, I don't know, goodness and just feel good type of movie. But it did have the horror, like you mentioned at the beginning. It had great zombie makeup. Also, Josh Gad was hilarious as that TV personality. He was such a douche.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That is probably the only thing I didn't care for in the movie was Josh Gad's character, because I mean, in the beginning it wasn't too bad, but then like his foul mouth got kind of obnoxious after a while. I was just like, really, like, you know, at what point? And then you're talking to little children. It's like, who talks to little children like that?
I did like it though, because it just showed you how despicable that guy was, and it was such a opposite of what his TV personality was. So you know, his true colors are shown, and I feel like that's kind of,
well, it's irony.
It's irony, but it's also realistic in the sense that I think somebody's real personality would come out, and if they weren't a good person, that would start to show a little bit.
That is true.
In such a terrible situation. And you know what? This is one of the ones, Paul actually watched a lot of these zombie movies with me, which is kind of funny because he usually doesn't watch a lot of these horror movies I watch for our marathons. He doesn't watch them with me, but I guess it just, the timing happened to where he was in the room with me and he ended up checking them out. He liked this one. He said it was funny. He loved the Josh Gad character. It made him laugh, and it made me laugh too, I must admit, because it was just so over the top. And I do think, like I said, it made sense for the situation. I feel like all of his humanity went out of the window, and obviously he just wasn't a good person to begin with. And you
Right.
kind of see that as the movie progresses. But really, the little romance happening between the teacher and the uncle, that was the highlight for me. And just the great kid actors. That was
Mhm.
also a very special part of the movie. And the way at the end they're singing and stuff, I just, like you said, the singing with the ukulele, I think that was really just a nice little extra touch, a bonus.
Right. And I think a big plus was the fact that Nyong'o plays Miss Caroline. I love her. I think she's fabulous.
She's wonderful. I'm glad you said her name because I was like, I want to highlight her, but I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, I think she's a wonderful actress. So it was so neat to be able to see her in a different kind of role like this, because usually she'll play like a dramatic role. Now she's been in a horror movie. She was in Us, and did a fabulous job in that too. But this was a little bit different, and I thought she did a great job. Um, and it was interesting also too that this was an Australian, US and British kind of collaboration, even though the setting is in Australia. So I thought that was pretty unique as well. And then also too, do you know how the outbreak happened?
How did it happen, Kat?
Well, they don't really tell us how the actual virus comes about, but how the outbreak gets started is there's
Oh,
an
yes, the
actual
army
US
facility.
base. Yes,
Yes,
there's a US
yes.
base that's next to the farm, and one of the zombies get out. So I'm going to assume that they're experimenting on, the dead people, and somehow a virus has, mutated them into the zombies. But that's what I'm going to assume.
This
But what
was
I liked, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say this is one of the first zombie movies I watched for the marathon, so I couldn't remember that they did actually show a whole bunch of parts about how it, like, the base. They showed footage from the base. Now that I'm remembering now, they also showed footage at the end where like this army guy is like, "We got to get these bastards again." So this has happened before. It seems like they've had problems with them getting out before. You kind of are led to believe that it's kind of like a read between the lines type of situation with the
Mhm.
dialogue. You kind of understand like this might have happened before. Not only experimentation, I think, is going on at that base, but perhaps like making them into weapons.
Yes, that's true. That is a possibility. And I think that is a theme that we find out in other movies that we've watched as well. That is the case. But and I do want to say that the Josh Gad character, Teddy McGiggles is his name.
Yes.
There are hilarious, parts in it. It was just, I don't know, like you said, it was kind of over the top. And I guess that it just kind of emphasized if a person is their true nature is going to come out in it. But otherwise, I mean, there's just so many wonderful scenes in it, especially the fact that the musician, he's so down on his luck and he's pitiful that he's going to use his, nephew to help him, try to get a girlfriend.
Yeah. It's going to be his little wingman, his
I know.
nephew.
But there were so many cute parts, like when the little boys dressed up as Darth Vader.
Oh my God, yes.
It's just precious, and then it's just the fact that the teacher, because I don't know many teachers that would have remained as calm as Miss Caroline did if there was a zombie outbreak, but she was pretty calm throughout this whole thing and tried to make it like there was really nothing going on, that that this was part of what they were supposed to experience on this field trip.
So not only did I love the actors who portrayed the characters, I also love the way the characters were written, period. And you know what's the Josh Gad character is good for? Remember how he said in zombie movies, a lot of times there's these characters who you just want to see get eaten.
Uh-huh.
He's one of those guys. So that's his purpose, I think. Like, it's the guy in the
Yes.
movie you just want to get killed.
Right.
Obviously the character, not anything in real life. You wouldn't be rooting for people to be killed. But in this sense, it's not real. And
Mhm.
you're like, yes, please get eaten. We don't like you at all. You're the worst. And that, I think, is why he's there. And it's perfect because you do want him to get taken out of the equation. But also, like you referenced, Miss Caroline, wonderful character. She was strong and calm for the kids, but then if you mess with the kids or, you're going to do something wrong, her inner badass comes out. And I like that you
Mhm.
see little glimpses of that from Miss Caroline, the character. Also, the character of the uncle. I like how you really don't like him at first. He seems like just a terrible guy.
Mm.
really superficial, but you could see the change in him throughout the movie. And that's really special and really well done. So I think it was just perfectly written in terms of characters.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was an A plus for me. I can't even say how much I loved it. It was marvelous.
Yes, me too. I like it. Thumbs up for it.
Good. All right, so now kind of a different tone. Let's move on to I Am Legend from 2007. And it's a quite popular movie, and I have seen it many times. This was not my first time watching it. It's probably like my 10th time watching it over the years. So the premise is, for those of you guys who might not be familiar, years after a plague kills most of humanity and transforms the rest into monsters, the sole survivor in New York City struggles valiantly to find a cure. And the ratings. So the ratings are 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb, 68% on Rotten Tomatoes, 65% on Metacritic, but 92% of Google users
Mhm.
liked it. So Kat, you take it away. What did you think about it?
Well, I loved it. It's a rewatch for me also. I've seen it a couple of times as well. I am a fan of Will Smith, so I don't think I've ever really seen a bad movie with Will Smith in it, but I enjoyed it. It is based on a book by Richard Matheson, which I really would like to read now, because I found out, on getting ready for our chat, that in the movie, we're dealing with zombies, like mutant, monster kind of zombie like.
Right.
Whereas in the book, it's actually vampires. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I heard that. And also really there's more of a there is a like a vampiric quality to them in the movie as well. I mean, in the movie they show them many times they're not going out in the day.
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
kind of makes sense in terms of like vampire qualities. They don't go out during the day, they don't like
Hmm.
sunlight. Same thing with these creatures. So although they do present more like zombies in the movie, there's still that vampire aspect where they don't like the
Hmm.
sun. And that is clearly presented. But yes, I heard the book is way more like vampire
Hmm.
heavy.
Yeah, that's what I had found out about it when I was doing the research on it. But I mean, I love the movie. It really, to me, is it's a horror movie, thriller, but also kind of a drama. I mean, because you have the whole aspect of this person who is a lone survivor, and he's trying to live in a situation that's not very great. There's no other human contact. I mean, he does have his dog, but then he's got to contend with these superhuman zombie creatures, which are kind of like a hybrid type, which I'm not really sure how I feel about hybrid type zombies. And it never really bothered me watching this the first couple of times going around, but it seems like that is becoming a trend in some more recent zombie movies that I've seen. I love Will Smith. I love his relationship with the dog. I
Yes.
think the movie is very tense in many places, almost the type that you can't really sit in your, seat. Like you just climbing the walls because you're like, want him to be okay. But there's also a lot of heart, and which I really, really, really like about it too.
There is a lot of heart, and I agree with you. I love Will Smith. I always have loved Will Smith. I probably even saw this in the theater if I had to guess, going all the way back to 2007. I have a feeling I saw it like in the actual movie theater.
Mhm.
But I gotta say, this was my most surprising watch in that my feelings for it have completely changed. And I know that sounds crazy, but like I don't mean to bash it, but the effects looked so terrible to me. Like this time around, I have seen this movie, as I mentioned before, so many times. So this time, I was so excited to rewatch it. I'm sitting there, I see the zombie vampire creatures, and I'm like, oh my God, they look so bad. I didn't remember them looking like that the other times I watched it, it took me out of it. I love the dog stuff. I love Will Smith. I love the heart. I love how the character is so dedicated to trying to find a cure. I love all those heart-wrenching, flashbacks to Will Smith's character's family. But the effects, it just ruined it for me. And it never bothered me before. Why does it bother me now all of a sudden? Maybe because things have progressed so much
Mhm.
with
Probably
makeup
so.
and effects. And so I was like, I didn't remember it being like that old looking. It just
Well,
like,
they
I
they
don't
were
know.
they were going to actually try to use real people to be the zombies, but there was a comment about how they looked mime-like and they didn't look really good at all. So this was the next best thing. But I
Yeah.
think at the time, this is probably the best quality that they had at the time. So, they had to work with what they had. Um, but I did find out a lot of interesting things about it. There are a lot of production notes and stuff. Most of the movie, I don't know if you noticed this, and at first I didn't realize it, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. There was not really any underlying score played in throughout the movie. And the
Oh,
reason why is because they wanted you to feel the character Neville's isolation, his solitude. Um, Also, in order for Will Smith to have the relationship with the dog Sam in the movie, he had to bond with the dog whose name was Abby. They went on dates so that they could bond, which I thought was very sweet. And
cute.
there is like I don't know if it's true or not, but he loved the dog so much that he wanted to try to buy the dog, like he wanted the dog to be his own, but the
Wow.
person that the handler wouldn't let him,
Oh.
which I'm like, man, that would have been an awesome thing for him to have from his movie.
I mean, what a story that would have been, like, Will Smith be like, yeah, I was in this movie with this dog and now he's my dog.
Right.
That would have been great.
That would
Oh
have
my
been
God.
great. I agree. Now, the little girl who plays Marley, his little girl in the movie, is actually Will Smith's daughter, Willow,
I didn't realize that.
which I thought was very awesome. Will Smith called DreamWorks to ask for permission for them to be able to use Shrek in the movie. He quotes
Wow.
lines from it, which is similar to Lupita Nyong'o asking Taylor Swift for permission to use Shake It Off, because originally she would not give permission for it to be used in the movie. But once, Miss Caroline called and asked if they could have Shake It Off, because it just fit with the movie so well. It does
Well,
have
yeah.
a place in it in
Oh,
more
it's
than
such a
one
big
spot.
part of the movie. Yeah, I mean, they
Exactly.
sing it and it's like got some more deeper meaning to the movie
Hmm.
too. So that's really cool. I had no idea.
So I just thought that was pretty neat that that they have enough credibility that they were able to get the permission, even though like the studios themselves couldn't get it.
Right.
The hunting scene, there's a hunting scene in there that is really awesome. It was too difficult for them to shut down Times Square, so they actually shot all of that on a soundstage, which I
Wow.
thought was pretty phenomenal because it's pretty intense in my opinion. Also, you're not going to believe the actors that were considered to be Neville, Dr. Neville in the movie. Some of it was when they were developing the film, and then right before they were, going to choose whoever it was. But it's pretty unbelievable, the long list.
Who?
Nick Cage is one of them, which
No. Oh
I
my
love Nick Cage, but
no.
Will Smith is a much better choice for this. I mean, while I like
Yes.
him, Will Smith definitely was better. He
Can
was
you even
considered.
imagine the bee scene from the Wicker Man? Like something happening like that in I Am Legend. Oh my God. That's ridiculous.
Right. Well, and I think they must consider that kind of, stuff when they're deciding, but he was considered actually in 1998 to do it. So this was actually in, the works for
Wow.
quite a while. Tom Cruise was considered, Michael Douglas, Mel Gibson,
Wow.
Daniel Day-Lewis, somebody named Ted Levine. I'm not sure who that is, and I
I've
didn't have
heard of
time to
them.
look him up. And Kurt Russell.
Oh,
But the thing about Kurt Russell is around the time they were considering him, he had been in a movie called Soldier, and it did not do very well. So
oh.
then they nixed him as being the leading guy, which I'm excited that Will Smith got it, because I cannot imagine any of those guys playing the part. I
I
just
can
can't.
I can imagine Kurt Russell. I love Kurt Russell. I'm a big Kurt Russell fan. But I do love Will Smith too. So I really it is hard to imagine, even though I like Kurt Russell, him in the role instead. But I think he could have done it. But yeah, now looking back, it's hard to just think who else could have done it really though. It just he had such a flair to it, Will Smith.
Mhm.
Also, I like how much he liked Bob Marley in the movie, the
Mhm.
character. I think that
Mhm.
was kind of really cool like opposite type of song to be playing in such dire circumstances.
Mhm.
And I think that's why he liked to play it. And obviously Bob Marley as a person was important to the character. So I thought that was very cool how that was in the movie as well. And it might be in the book for all I know, but I don't know yet. So we'll see one day
Mhm.
when I read it if they do mention some kind of music or what that was important to the character that was help
Right.
keeping him sane, you know, and in a good
Mhm.
mood.
Well, and also too, Will Smith did his homework and really, he was very apologetic to the fans. Well, I don't know if it was necessarily fans. Some of the people were pretty angry, but he was very apologetic to the people in the city because they had to shut streets down at a time. And this is in New York, and that's not, how busy New York is.
Yeah.
So he actually apologized publicly for like closing down their roads. But he even did some research with prisoners in isolation, asking them, how they survive the solitude. And one of the things that came out of that research was that they needed a rigid schedule. And if you notice, that's something that you see in the movie. He's got a very rigid schedule that kind of helps
Yes.
him with that, the process. And I'm not sure if you realize that the cause of this outbreak is a man-made plague. I didn't realize that it was man-made, when I originally watched it.
Well, they were trying
So,
to cure cancer, correct? I believe.
mhm.
And then that morphed into some kind of virus. At least that's what I
That's what I
kind of
originally,
understood.
right. Which I thought that. So then I was almost wondering, I'm wondering if there was also something else going on. I'm wondering if that's something that'll be explained in the book. Sometimes you don't get all the information. You just have
Yes.
to kind of, figure it out on your own.
Yeah, in a future May, you and I should totally read the book. I mean, even
Hmm.
though technically the book is more vampire heavy, apparently, but still, I mean, because the movie is so, different, I feel like it still could be zombie related in that, we compare and contrast with the movie in a future May and
We
still be
could.
slightly zombie related. We'll see. Well, I don't know.
It would be good to be able to compare it and see how much of a backstory you would have, and to see why they made some of the decisions that they made in the film to take it in the direction that they did.
Right. So overall, I don't want to bash it too much because I was like really harsh on it just a few minutes ago. But I do, like I said, love the heart, love
Mhm.
the relationship between the dog and Will Smith's character. That's like the best part of the film. And you just, every time the dog is in potential danger, you're like screaming, like, no, no, get out of there, get safe. And it's like that, like what you said, it's tense. It's so
Mhm.
tense at points
Mhm.
because of that specifically. And also, you just feel for Will Smith being so alone and lonely, and it must drive somebody crazy. And you could kind of see, his mental health is not the best. Hence, him talking to like mannequins in like a blockbuster. Or that also brings me back them having like a movie rental store. How wonderful! We don't have those anymore. So I like the old nostalgic stuff like that. I just didn't like the old effects. I feel like it doesn't really hold up. But like you said, they did what they could do. It was the best they
Mhm.
could do at the time. I'm not
Mhm.
trying to be too harsh, but yeah, it just kind of took me by surprise. I didn't remember it being like that.
Mhm.
Especially the main zombie vampire guy who seemed to be the smartest one, who you see full on and you see him screaming. That's what felt cartoonish was that
Mhm.
one guy
Mhm.
because you kept seeing him scream and just his face just didn't look realistic to me. So that was the one particularly that looked off. But yeah,
Mhm.
overall, still fun to revisit it. I'm not trying to bash it too hard, but I am. Sorry. All right. So that's all I have to say about I Am Legend. How about you,
Mhm.
Kat?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I'm pleased with it. I enjoyed it, and I give it 2 thumbs up.
Okay. I don't know what I give it yet. I don't know, like 1.5 thumbs. I don't know. So we've got next another serious type of film and another film featuring kids because we had Little Monsters featuring like kindergarten kids, now featuring slightly older kids, The Girl with All the Gifts. And this is from 2016. And the basic premise is a scientist and a teacher living in a dystopian future embark on a journey of survival with a special young girl named Melanie. That is very, very very loose of a description, I have to say, because really it's a lot more in depth than that. There's a lot more to it than that. Basically, we've got a zombie outbreak going on, and there's these kids who are actually also infected, but they're not affected like everybody else is. They're not
Mhm.
brainless, mindless zombies. They can think, they're very smart. but people have to take precautions being around them, because if they smell like pure human scent, they will start to descend and kind of devolve into that zombie kind of behavior where they are wanting to eat people and eat things. So essentially there's this base which are studying these special kids, including one in particular who's super smart, hence the name, the girl with all the gifts. She really has all the gifts in terms of she's very, very smart, very knowledgeable, and also very sweet. But people don't want to get too close to her because, you know, to them, she's a creature deep down.
She's a creature, and I think that they're scared of her because she is intelligent, you
Yes.
know, and so they don't know really. And I mean, and she doesn't come across as scary. She comes across very sweet. She's very polite. She's kind, you know, she tries to engage, you know, the people on the base, but they don't trust her because I mean, I think apparently at some point they probably had some bad situations with children not, you know, ending up being able to go through with their program.
Yeah.
And because of that, you know, they're a little gun shy, but she doesn't display any of that, you know, initially. And again, it's human error. Everything that happens with people and zombies basically is human error.
Yes. Yes, there's always a human element to these zombie stories, to where sometimes even there's a bigger antagonist of a fellow human versus a zombie or a group of zombies. So I will say I enjoyed this a lot, and I actually read the book that this movie is based on, and that is by M.R. Carey. And I read this last year, so I didn't read it this month, which would have been thematic if I had. But no, I didn't get into any thematic reading this month. But this was a really great book. However, I actually think the movie is a little better than the book, in my opinion, which is very
Wow.
rare. I just felt like the horror, I just felt like it came across better in the movie. Whereas it didn't feel as scary to me in the book when I was reading it. It felt like more of a thriller drama when I was reading the book, whereas the movie I could feel the horror. Now, my one criticism with the movie, I didn't like the music. I felt like the music was really I mean, it was supposed to be kind of sad and eerie, and it was very eerie, haunting, really.
Yes.
But it was just too, I didn't like it too. It was just too, like, I don't know, new agey feeling kind of. But overall, the ratings, let's talk about that before we analyze it a little bit more. 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb, 85% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 67% on Metacritic, and 80% of Google users like it. So far, the theme with all of these movies are they're pretty well received by both critics and audiences alike. So that's kind of rare for horror movies, especially. So it seems like all these zombie films that we've picked have actually been pretty decently reviewed by reviewers. Rare, again. That doesn't usually happen. Usually critics are like, it's a horror movie, stay away. It's not very good. It's not a cinematic gem. And a lot of these movies aren't meant to be gems per se, but they are effective in that they kind of play on our deep down fears, our fears of some kind of virus taking over, people that we love getting changed and not being who we know them to be, kind of turning into monsters. So I feel like the zombie genre or subgenre, I guess you could say, is effective in that way. It plays on those fears that we all have deep down. That's why it's good horror and good movies and good material in general, good fiction. So yeah, the movie itself, though, I do feel like it was a great adaptation to the book. A lot of times you can criticize a movie that's based on a book, but this time I think it did a really good job. And Glenn Close was in it. She was marvelous. She was a great little character that you really eventually start to dislike a little bit. But at the same time, she's trying to do what she thinks is best. So she's just trying to do what she thinks is a good thing.
Yeah.
But and I gotta say, so the ending of the movie and the book I didn't like very much. I feel like I still had a lot of unanswered questions about the actions of certain characters at the end, and I was like, why? But yeah, the ending is quite sad, I think, personally, and you're just left in a bummed out mood. But again, it is an effective film in that it makes you feel things, so it is what it is. What do you think, Kat?
Well, I enjoyed it. I'm not really too sure if I like the idea of a hybrid zombie, and that's kind of like what the situation is. Zombies that can think, zombies that can make decisions. I just guess and we've talked about this before. tend to like more of the traditional zombies that you see like in Shaun of the Dead or The Walking Dead. I like the premise of the story. It's a mysterious fungal disease that ends up causing the zombie outbreak. It pretty much obliterates humanity, and you're stuck with this group of survivors with these children, and they have to figure out how they're going to navigate the world and get wherever they're trying to get, somewhere where they think that it's going to be safer,
Right.
which that's it's I guess because I've seen so many zombie movies and read books, every group of survivors thinks it's an isolated situation,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's happening, elsewhere in the world. Um, I wasn't too wild about the ending either. I mean, I got what they were trying to do with it. Melanie ends up having to make a decision that ultimately is going to affect all of humankind, as we know it.
Yeah.
And what is it going to be? And, and how is it going to affect, certain characters that are still remaining? It's, you almost wonder if they leave it up to you to decide, do you want it to be a happy ending kind of ending, or it is what it is? I just think it's not an ending. It's not a happily ever after ending.
Yes.
And a lot of times we're, as moviegoers, we want to have a happily ever after, ending, especially, and you want all of the characters you care about to survive. And when
Right.
that doesn't happen, it just kind of feels like a punch in the gut. But it's also a British film, so that also lends to, I think, the atmosphere of it, the music choices, the situation that they're in. So I don't know. I mean, I did think it was pretty interesting that they refer to the zombies as hungries.
Yeah. I like how there's different nicknames sometimes with different zombie, not only films, but TV shows as well. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, from The Walking Dead, they have all kinds of names sometimes. I love how just that differs all the time. You'd think they got to run out of nicknames for zombies, right? Nope. There's new ones popping up in every different iteration, either whether it's a
Right.
movie, TV show, book, whatever. They find different things to call them. I like
Now I
that.
wanted to ask you, reading the book, remembering the book, did the book kind of give you a little more backstory? So when you were watching the movie, you kind of had questions answered ahead of time, or it didn't really?
I wish I had read it more recently because it has been a while. It's been like a year, maybe a little bit longer since I've read it. However, I don't feel like the book had a lot more detail on certain things. Like we
Mhm.
don't see the beginnings of things. So that's the same for the movie and the book. We don't see the beginnings of the outbreak. We're kind of tossed right in the middle. And but what the book does, I feel like you question more what's wrong with Melanie, the main character, the main little girl.
Mhm.
You kind of question what's going on right at the beginning, and you get more of her internal thoughts, which I do find interesting. However, what I do think is different is in the movie, I feel like it's more clear that it's a sad ending for a certain character, whereas in the book, you're not really, it's more left up in the air, like, is this character sad that this happened or okay with it?
Mhm.
So to me, the movie answers it more clearly and tells you the answer by a certain shot of one of the characters, and
Right.
there's a tear falling. And so to me, that answers right there that the character's not happy. Whereas in the book, it felt more open ended to me. I'd have to read the
Mhm.
last page again, but to me, I don't remember there any being anything about a tear or anything described about sadness. I think it was just a description by Melanie and her internal thoughts of what was happening. So we
Mhm.
didn't get like the shot of a different character about how they felt. So to
Mhm.
me, yeah, I like the movie better in some aspects like that, getting a glimpse at how a different character besides Melanie felt.
Mhm.
And I just feel like I had an easier time, I guess, picturing everything, obviously, because the pictures are being shown to me. Whereas I just didn't feel like I could picture certain things in the book as well. Like
Right.
the horror didn't come across to me. Whereas in the the film, it did. Not only the horror, like, oh, the zombies are scary, but like just the sadness and the hopelessness of the situation came across really clear
Mhm.
in the movie to
Mhm.
me.
Right.
Whereas in the book,
Yeah.
not as much personally. But again, I'd have to reread it really very close to watching the movie to really compare it fairly. So take it with a grain of salt, what I'm saying, because it has been a little while since I read the book. But from what I remember, I just really liked the adaptation of the film a
Mhm.
lot.
Well, and what I liked about it was a different premise. You know, there was something different about it. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fact that it, I mean, there are horrible things that happen in the movie, but then there's also the story of the survivors. It's the story, it's the characters, it's
Right.
kind of identifying what they're having to go through, the decisions they have to make. And that the fact that, when people are making decisions, whether we agree with their decisions or not, they're making a decision based on the facts that they have at that moment and what they feel is right.
Right.
And we can't necessarily agree with it because we're not technically in that situation. We're the observer on the outside,
Right.
not in the thick of a zombie apocalypse, obviously. But when they're making those decisions, it sometimes it ends up with really terrible consequences.
Yes.
So again, the humans.
Yes. I mean, everything just goes awry at one point in the story. The humans don't help either. I mean, it's just like a bummer. I will say, you mentioned this being about a hybrid version of a zombie. I mean, the majority of the zombies featured though are like normal zombies.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
a little section that are hybrids and different.
And
And
then
that's
they do explain
yeah.
why the
Yes.
children are the way they are, which does make sense. It's just, where are they going to go from there? When you think
Right.
about like, I there's just so many unanswered questions at that point. Like, what are they really capable of? At the end,
Yeah.
considering they are zombies with human emotions, and they can control themselves to a point,
I think
so it's
I think the thing that comes across is their desire. If these are like a hybrid of people and and zombies, they also have a desire to survive. So they're not like
mhm,
normal zombies with no brain. They have their own will and desire to survive as a species. And I think that's what we see develop
mhm.
as the story goes forward. And I think that's the reasoning, maybe even subconsciously, behind some of the characters' actions.
Right,
Perhaps.
so
That's
it's
just my
almost,
analysis
I
of it.
guess it's almost like it's a zombie evolution
Yes,
type
yes.
movie.
And then the evolution of the certain characters, they want to survive like in their in their advanced, in their mind, in their advanced state,
Mhm.
the type of creature, person, whatever you want to call them, that they are, they want to keep going.
Right,
So
but
yeah.
I do also find sadness in the fact that they're children.
Yes, me too. I mean, it's there's a lot of layers here. It's a tragic story, all kinds of different ways. Any way you look at it, really, it's like
Mhm.
no, no, no. Yeah, I gotta say it was pretty sad. So, but overall, well done. I was really impressed with how they did it. And
Mhm.
Paul watched this one with me too.
Oh,
He
good.
didn't think he'd like it. He did like it. And that says a lot because he's pretty harsh on these horror movies. Like he'll tell you right away if something's corny or bad. But he
Mhm.
he enjoyed it. So that surprised me quite a bit, honestly.
Yeah, Barry's the same way. I mean, he's watched quite a few of the movies with me. At least probably half of them, and this was one of the ones that he had watched. He was interested in it because it had such a good description to it, and it was something
Yeah.
different, a little
Right.
bit different than what we've seen. So yeah.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, like usually Paul's not interested in these movies at all, but he just like luckily he was in the room because I like to get his opinion since he's not into horror as much at all. So it's a different viewpoint for sure.
I did have a friend watch it. He's been watching some of the movies that I, had on my list.
Oh, cool.
And, he told me that he was going to watch it. And I said, oh, I'm curious to see how you feel about the ending. And he liked it. He couldn't understand the decision that Melanie makes. Like, what the hell was she thinking?
Yeah.
And he did not like the ending at all.
I told you.
And
Yeah, like the
so
ending's hard.
he and I went back and forth with it, and I said I can understand the decision she makes. It's it a lot of it has to do with the fact of survival. Like you said, they want to survive just as much humans want to survive.
It's instinct, in
But
my opinion. It's not even like a conscious thought. To me, I think her instincts took over and she's like, I won't be stamped out type of thing. Or like
mhm,
me and my kind won't be stamped out, especially when she finds like, similar. She knows there's lots of other people similar to her. It's not just her. She's not alone
mhm,
and she won't
mhm,
have them be stamped out. I think that's my explanation in my head the more I
mhm.
think about it.
I mean, I think that there are wonderful scenes throughout, especially when she goes into the city and she makes the discovery that she is not the only one. I mean, she knows that there are children in, the facility she's at, but to know that there are children outside. And I do think that's probably one of the driving
Yes.
forces that have her make that decision that she makes, is when she makes that discovery. Because for a time, all she thought about was the children in the facility that she was being
Yes.
held in. So, I mean, the fact that we can have a conversation about it, and we have such strong feelings, and other people that have seen it have strong feelings too, means that it touched a nerve.
Yeah.
And that's when I think that a movie does its job, in my
I
opinion.
mean, I don't agree with their actions, but the whole like there's so many instances in the movie where they talk about the evolution of the virus itself. Like, oh, look, there's pods popping up out of nowhere right now. The virus has evolved to like stage 2 or whatever. Just so
Mhm.
I just feel like that whole idea of a species or a thing evolving, that is a big part of the story, and that's why I'm using that as the basis of her actions type of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
So I don't know, at least it's fun to talk about for
Yes.
sure. I gotta say, it's a really great movie to discuss because, yeah, I didn't like the ending either. It made me bummed out. I was like, come on, what does that even mean? Like, why did that happen? Why? But it is what it is. Effective horror, in my opinion.
Yes.
Makes
Yes.
you think, makes you feel.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
It stays with you for sure. So now going from that to something completely different, way more light, I would say. In fact, so light that you have to know going in that this is just meant to be a good time, a mindless piece of film that's more for fun. Uh, but there's also some heavy stuff, at parts too. But there's a lot of just action. To me, this is like a zombie action film, 100%.
Yes.
Yes, I would describe it like zombie movie, like on acid kind of thing. Like, let's see how big of a budget or, movie we can make. And it's got to be zombie themed. We got to have guns. We got to have explosions. We got to have action stars. We got to have all kinds of stuff going on. Ridiculous characters like a zombie tiger. Come on. Which, yes, guys, there's a zombie tiger in it, which has like
Mhm.
half of a missing face, but I like that. Well, anyway, so we're talking about Army of the Dead, and that was released this very year in 2021. You could find it on Netflix. It's streaming right now if you haven't seen it. This movie, the premise is we're following a zombie outbreak in Las Vegas. A group of mercenaries take the ultimate gamble and they venture into the quarantine zone to pull off the greatest heist ever attempted. So it's like Ocean's 11, but zombies, you know? But also they're contracted to go in there and try to
Mhm.
retrieve some money. So it's not just on their own accord. They want to go do this heist and get paid off to do it because someone comes to them and
Mhm.
says, we need you to go back into the quarantine zone, get this money, yada yada. Lots of things going on here. I will say I love Dave Bautista, so that had a part in why I liked it to begin with. Maybe if Dave Bautista wasn't in it, I wouldn't have been so fond of this movie. Lots of interesting music choices. They took a
Mhm.
lot of popular songs and did like acoustic versions, which I kind of wish they would have just used the original versions personally. But I do think it's funny they used the song Zombie by the Cranberries
Yes.
because the reason I thought it was so funny is I swear I'm not making this story up. This is pure coincidence. This really happened. Paul and I are going to sleep. And I, like, out of nowhere before bed, I said, please don't let me forget tomorrow. And this was before our first chat. I said, don't let me forget about the song Zombie by the Cranberries. He's like, why? I'm like, just because I want to like sing it like for me and Kat's chat. Like, I want to open up and have it be my opening saying zombie, zombie, zombie. Anyway, I was like, that'd be perfect opening for the chat, like reference the song, yada yada. And actually, when we had our chat, I forgot to do it. And then I started to talk about the other zombie songs by Zombie
Mhm.
Nation for Shaun of the Dead. So I decided to do, to talk about that song instead. I didn't do the open, But I swear to you, you can ask Paul. I said that to him. I'm like, don't let me forget Zombie. We're watching Army of the Dead, and then Zombie comes on. I'm like, just like I said, this, like, why doesn't another zombie movie use the song Zombie? It makes perfect sense. Anyway, I was happy with that little reference there from the zombie movie. I was like, zombie movie, zombie song. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
and it's a great song, so perfect.
Yeah, I would have preferred them including the original. I don't know why I'm such a
Mhm,
fan of original things. They included like an acoustic version, which was
mhm,
okay, but I just love the original so much.
mhm.
But still cool that it was in there. I was like, wow, no, awesome. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. This movie really, you just got to go in and expect it's just kind of lean back, relax, don't think too much, don't overanalyze it, because then you might not enjoy it. You might think this is stupid, this is way too action heavy, this is way too nonsensical. If you start to really dig in, you're not gonna like it. What'd you think about it, Kat?
Well, I did think it was a neat idea, taking place in Vegas. There were some really great action scenes, some really great kills. The zombie makeup was excellent. Directed by Zack Snyder, who I love, Dawn of the Dead, 2004, 300, Watchmen. So I was like super excited about it. And Dave Bautista, of course, is in it. Those are all the things I loved about it. I have to honestly say it was not my favorite.
I
Um,
figured you wouldn't like it for some reason.
I was disappointed. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I was a little disappointed because I was looking so forward to it because they released it in May, which is Zombie Awareness Month, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh man, this is gonna be great. I'm thinking it's Zack Snyder, Dave Bautista's in it. It's gonna be awesome. Um, I just thought it was all over the place.
Yeah.
There was too many plot lines. They needed to stick to one plot line, or a couple of them, but not all of them. I felt it was too long. It went on too
Yes.
long,
Oh,
in
it
my
was
opinion.
pretty long. It was
Um,
freaking long. Yeah.
I could not stand the daughter at
Yes.
all. I hated that whole situation. I thought that was a waste of time. They could have gotten rid of the whole storyline with her, and the situation of why she ends up in Vegas with them.
Yes.
And again, I think this is probably why I'm like not a fan of the hybrid zombie. And what made me start thinking about that in a way, because you have the zombie, you have your normal zombies that are like, "Whoa,
Right.
I can't think, and I'm going to do is eat your brain or whatever." But then you've have them somehow it's never explained, somehow some of them have evolved into where they can think and they can be strategic and they can actually make deals with you so that you can come into their territory
Right.
and get whatever you need to get and then get out, because apparently there is a mercenary that goes in there and brings people in and then brings them out. But I don't know. And it was just like kind of long and drawn out.
Right.
And I think the reason why is because they had too many plot lines going on. Like if they would have just had the whole, deal with them going in and doing the heist, then that would have been, fine in my opinion. But I don't know. I was kind of disappointed with it, I will admit. But I wanted you to realize that the zombie outbreak actually takes place because dun dun dun, a
Human
wiener.
error. Oh, a wiener. Yes, yes. Human error and a wiener, which happens all the time in the movies we're watching. What's with the wieners? I don't know.
When I was getting my notes prepared for this, I'm like, another wiener incident. And this time it actually starts the zombie apocalypse.
I totally forgot about that. I didn't even think of it like that. But yes, I was like, oh yeah, human error, like blah blah wieners. Yes, you're
Well, I
right.
mean, we do have to blame the government a little bit
Oh
for
yeah.
it because the government is responsible for the zombie, the head zombie.
Yeah.
And in this respect, I do think the government, the US government, this is an American film, the US government is actually using this zombie as a weapon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that is what kind of made me think, well, I can see why this particular zombie can be strategic, because if he is a weapon, for the military, then he's got to be able to think in order to be able to do that. But could he really teach other zombies? I
I don't.
mean,
I actually
it's
think.
like, how did that all come about?
I actually think the semi explanation is that every one that he bit personally was a smarter evolved zombie. Whereas,
Okay, okay.
so if he bit them and then that one bit somebody else, that one wouldn't have been smart. It's only the ones he specifically bit that like formed a community. So I feel like after a while, he
Okay.
was probably being picky with who he bit because he was going to bring them into his community, and he knew whoever he bit was going to be a smarter version. Whereas whoever the ones he bites, they are just normal brainless zombies because
Okay.
the manufactured gene or whatever it is that makes him like a zombie is going to be diluted with every, passing, I guess you could say, generation of the bite. I don't know.
Mhm.
Because, if he bites somebody, they bite somebody, they bite somebody, you're literally losing the potency of whatever initially made this guy like the way he is,
Right, right.
I
And
guess.
then this is the other thing too. I am sure, I didn't look this up because I won't watch it. I am sure that there's going to be a sequel.
Yes. Oh my God. The ending was unsatisfying. And it did kind
It
of seem
was.
open ended. I got to say, I am so biased. I know the reason I semi even like this is because of Dave Bautista. And I have this
Yes,
whole rant
yes.
about how everyone loves The Rock. Yes, he's funny. Yes, he's great. I will freaking fight to the death saying that, not fight to the death, but I will go on and on overboard about how I think that Dave Bautista is the best wrestler turned actor out there. That includes The Rock. I think there's no comparison in terms of Dave Bautista can do that emotional type of acting and not just the funny haha.
Mhm,
He does do
mhm,
the funny haha, but he also does like the subtle stuff. He even can do very kind of in the middle comedy too, where it's like
mhm.
he's not over the top acting like haha I'm like in the shower in a fat suit like The Rock in one of his movies. He's like in the shower, and that is funny. Okay, that is funny, but it's easy to be funny when you're in a situation like that, when you're in like a fat suit, like kind of being over the top. Whereas Dave Bautista, if you think of like Guardians of the Galaxy, him
Mhm,
being that type of character where he's just doing kind of word comedy where he's like
mhm.
he doesn't understand like the like language, so he's like playing around with very subtle types of things and subtle humor, but he does it so effectively.
Yes, he
I will go
does.
on and on about Dave Bautista and how I think he's the best wrestler turned actor. I mean, I'll say this forever. He's just so good at being emotional too. I mean, I think,
Mhm,
like you said, the daughter character I didn't like, but
mhm.
Dave Bautista at least made the whole relationship at least a little entertaining.
I just didn't like her. I don't know.
She
It
threw
was,
everything off. She threw the whole thing off. She ruined everything, really, if you think
yeah,
about it.
yeah. I do, again, human
Yes.
error,
I mean, she was
again.
she was trying to help a friend,
Yeah, but think
but
about it.
still.
Think about it. The ending would have been different had she not been
Yes.
there.
I know.
Okay. The whole situation would have been different because, when you're going in with emotion to do a job that's going to be tough,
Right.
it's hard for you to concentrate because your attention is split between what you have to do, the survival aspect of it, and then you've got someone you dearly care about that you're also trying to watch out for. And it's sort of like her being there, you made that whole situation, difficult. It's like, I don't know, I just think they needed to get rid of her,
Yeah, to me, she
and
was
not
more of
be
like a
in it.
plot device. Like, just to make things happen, to be like a wrench in things.
But I think there were plenty of other wrenches.
Right. I mean, she
There
was
were plenty of other,
unnecessary.
yeah, she was unnecessary. And I mean, going back to Dave Bautista, I'm just going to say, I did not realize, I mean, I knew he was a wrestler, but I didn't realize how long he had been acting. I mean, he's only been acting since 2006, but I didn't discover him until 2014 when he played Drax in
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy. And so to me, that was like his breakout role. But I mean, he's been acting since 2006, but I just love him in everything that I've seen him in. He's
Yeah.
just really, really, really good. And I'm going to tell you what, I have to agree with you. I don't think the film would have done as well if he wouldn't have been in it. I think he carried the film, you
Yeah.
know. That's just me, saying that. I mean, I love Zack Snyder. I love his films, but I don't know. I just think there was things that could have been done differently, in my opinion. Now, I don't know if you realize there was a big controversy surrounding this film. Do you
No.
hear about the controversy?
No.
Well, actually, in September of 2020, they had to reshoot all kinds of scenes because Chris Delia, I think, or Delia, the actor who played the original pilot,
I've got something to
was
say after you talk about the
yes,
pilot.
well,
I've got
he
something to
was
say.
he was accused of sexual misconduct during the summer, and it was by multiple people.
Oh
And
no.
because of that, Netflix paid the bill, and this, Zack Snyder and his wife were fully on board and totally accepted everything that they decided to do. So they yanked him out and replaced him with Tig. I think it's Tig Notaro, might be
Yeah,
how you
that's
pronounce
who I
her
want to
name.
talk about. Yes.
Well, they used green screens and CGI to do her scenes. So
Wow.
she was not there when they filmed the original scenes. Like, she had to use a lot of
Wow.
CGI and green screens for that. So talk about a remarkable job on her part, because I would never have known that if some of my friends wouldn't have brought that up to me. And so I did a little research just to find out, what the whole deal was. And Netflix paid big bucks. There was not a
Wow.
number that was thrown out with it, but they paid big bucks to replace him, because it was pretty terrible what he was involved in. So
That
kudos,
fact blows my mind.
yeah, kudos to Netflix and Zack Snyder and everybody on board with that, because that could have literally ruined their film.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. I had no idea, Kat. Thanks for telling me that, because I can't even imagine though that anyone else would have been cast as the pilot, because I loved how Tig played it. In fact, that was my second favorite character, and maybe I'm biased because I'll get to that in a second, but she was my second favorite character other than Dave Bautista. I thought she did a marvelous job with like her comedy. She's so dry and sarcastic.
Mm-hmm.
So the funny thing is, I'm gonna have to tell Paul all about this whole thing, how she wasn't even originally the pilot, because
Mm-hmm.
Paul did watch this one with me. So Paul has a good friend named Renault, and I know Renault as well. He actually is from here. He used to live here, but I've hung out with Paul and Renault before, and actually Tig is his sister. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. We talk about her all the time. And the
Oh my
funny thing is,
gosh.
right before we watched this, Paul's like, "Oh, Renault just texted me, and he's gonna come into town in like a couple of months or something, because I think one of his relatives just got either appointed like some kind of political office. Like one of his
Mm-hmm.
relatives is like a politician now. They just won. So they're going to come in for like the campaign celebration. So anyway, we're going to hang out with Renault. So that night or the next night or something, very soon after this text, we're watching the movie and Paul's like, "Oh, Renault's sister's in this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, she's in it." Because I knew who his sister was. We
Mm-hmm.
had talked
Mm-hmm.
about her many times. So just, we didn't even know. We ended up texting Renault that night. Like, we just watched your sister, and she is so funny. She's friends with so many like celebrity people because Renault tells us all these stories about her. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she just seems like such a cool person. And wow, extra kudos. I didn't know she wasn't originally cast. I had
No, she
no
was
idea.
not. Yeah,
I'm gonna
so
have to tell
I just
Paul.
think it's incredible, because I mean, I know as an actor, like, I wouldn't have been able to pull off being in front of a green screen or
No.
having to do CGI stuff. I'm not skilled enough by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I would need real people, and they could not go back to reshoot all of those scenes. I mean, you
Yeah.
can see, I mean,
Yeah.
everything that went into this film. It's phenomenal. Everything that they've done to, the setting,
Yeah.
everything that they had to go through for the production of it. But
You know what
yeah.
the budget was?
No, what was the budget?
70 to 90 million dollars.
Oh goodness.
Can you even believe it? I don't even know how they make money since it's like on Netflix. I mean, subscriptions, yeah, but did it drive that many subscriptions? I don't know. And their marketing for it was insane because, so, Dave Bautista, as I referenced, was a former professional wrestler. Well, he wrestled in the WWE, and the WWE promoted the hell out of this movie.
Mm.
They actually like talked about it on a pay-per-view, and they did so many weird wacky things to promote the movie, including they had like all these wrestlers outside of the ring look like zombies and like try to prevent people from like getting out of the ring. It was
Oh
really
wow.
stupid. But like my point is that I don't know if Netflix paid them or if they did it because of Dave Bautista and that
Mm-hmm.
relationship, or what was going on, but there was some kind of cross promotion deal. I don't know if it was a favor or if it was paid, but yeah. So not only was there a budget, but like they advertised everywhere for this movie. But like you said, I really think that the reason why it was even remotely successful,
Mhm.
or people went out in droves to watch it in their homes, was because Dave Bautista and his name value and the association with Marvel, obviously, and the whole
Right.
Guardians of the Galaxy, the whole superhero association. I feel like people were like, oh, let's see, he's in a zombie movie now. Let's see what that's all about. And I don't think it was entirely successful, but I don't think it was entirely terrible either, because there were some parts that were really cool. And I gotta say, like I said, I might be biased, but I like Tig a lot. I thought she was great. I honestly can't, and this is not being biased, I really can't imagine somebody else playing that pilot, because I thought
Mhm.
she brought a lot to the role in terms of being like sarcastic and, I
I
don't know,
agree. I agree. I
smarmy,
thought I agree. I mean, she was a natural fit for it. She played the part perfectly. And I think she really she complimented Dave Bautista's character,
yeah, because they
you
had
know?
interactions personally, them two, their characters.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm glad it worked out the way it did, and it may actually be what also helped the film,
Yeah,
and the thing about it is, kudos again to Netflix for taking a stand with that, because like I
yeah,
said, this man's being accused of something pretty serious,
and
and
that's
the
not
fact
cool. Yeah.
it's not cool, so apparently it was worth it because Netflix spent big bucks on it.
Well, I'm glad that they reshot it so that guy doesn't get any more screen time than, he obviously doesn't deserve any screen time. So thank
Hmm.
goodness they cut him out while they
Hmm.
could,
I
no
agree.
matter what the cost. So I'm happy about that. I had no idea. Thanks for letting me know that, Kat. So just before we move on, because I do have one more film and then Kat's got a few more to talk about after I talk about my next one. But just in terms of the ratings, it got a 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb, 69% on Rotten Tomatoes, 57% on Metacritic, and 71% of Google users liked it. So although it's a little bit less in the ratings than some of the other films we've talked about, still not terrible.
Hmm.
Including IMDb, it's pretty much the lowest IMDb out of all the ones we've talked about, but still not bad. And Google users still overall so far have liked it. So
Right.
although you and I have some criticisms, it's still being remotely well received.
Hmm.
All right, so we go from a new zombie film to a very old school zombie film that I didn't think that I'd be able to watch. If you guys caught our last chat where we talked about Shaun of the Dead and Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, I mentioned that I wanted to watch Dawn of the Dead, the 1978 version, before I watched Shaun of the Dead, to kind of, catch any kind of references that they might have had in Shaun of the Dead to one of the most famous zombie movies, Dawn of the Dead. Now, there is another famous zombie movie, Night of the Living Dead, which I had seen. So it's not like I'm totally ignorant of all zombie films. I had seen some classic ones, but I was dying to see Dawn of the Dead. Alas, it's not streaming anywhere. And I talked about this in our chat. I couldn't find it. And when I searched for the DVD, because I was willing to buy it, it was super expensive. And the copies that were there, people were saying, don't buy it. The restoration is trash. It's bad. And I almost bought the foreign version, but that wouldn't have played on my DVD player. And there is a foreign version that has been recut by Dario Argento, which is one of my favorite directors. He directed Suspiria. And he works a lot with the band Goblin, who does do part of the soundtrack for Dawn of the Dead. So anyway, I couldn't find it. I was all bummed. I can't watch it. I can't watch it. You looked at Second and Charles for me.
Uh-huh.
I looked at Second and Charles because I also went to a different one that's, was a different location than you went to. We both couldn't find it.
Hmm.
What the hell? So I was like, how could this movie be so hard to find? It's one of the most well-known zombie movies ever. I get a DVD from my dad. It was a horror collection DVD. He gave it to me when I went over there to visit him a few days ago. And so when I'm going to put it on my DVD rack here at home, I'm like, let me just look, because I thought this a few days before that. I said, maybe I have this DVD and I don't know. Like maybe my friend Burke gave it to me, because a lot of times my friend Burke will give me his old DVDs that he doesn't want anymore. And so I'll eventually just keep them and forget I have them. But it's not movies I buy. It's like ones that he gives me that he is like, looking to rehome them. So I'm just thinking to myself, maybe I have this. I didn't look. But my dad gives me this DVD. I go to put it up. I'm like, let me just look on the shelf because I never looked. There it is sitting there. Dawn of the Dead on DVD. I have it. So it was after May ended. I text you right away. I said, you won't believe it. I think I couldn't find it. I thought it was hopeless and pointless. I'll never be able to see it. Nope, it was sitting there on my shelf, and you're like, oh my God, you got to watch it now before our chat.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay. So I watched it. To make a very long story short, I did end up seeing it. I guess better that it's later than never, right?
Exactly.
Yes. So I gotta say, this was definitely different. Not was what I was expecting. Another kind of case of old school effects, and that's very apparent when you watch it, but still a fun time. Paul half watched it with me. He was watching sports at the same time on his laptop, so he barely paid attention. But he laughed at a lot of stuff in the movie, even stuff that's not supposed to be funny. He was like, "Oh, this is so ridiculous and over the top." But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was obviously it is historic in terms of zombie movies. It was
Mhm.
fun, and there's a big human element to it. These humans have to adapt and, like, into living into a mall. So here's the premise, by the way, before I get into the analysis too much. Following an ever-growing epidemic of zombies that have risen from the dead, two Philadelphia SWAT team members, a traffic reporter, and his television executive girlfriend seek refuge in a secluded shopping mall. And the majority of everything takes place in this shopping mall. They're trying to find supplies. They're trying to kind of board up the mall so that more zombies don't get in. They're trying to take care of the zombies that are in there so that they can kind of have the run of the mall instead of the zombies. Lots of good stuff there, lots of good interactions. One of the SWAT members literally says yeehaw like 1,000 times in this one scene. I even told Paul, like, how many times can some guy say yeah, yeehaw? Like, he's getting all excited because the adrenaline's flowing. He literally, I even told Paul, I wish I would have rewound and counted. He had to have said it 7 times. Yeehaw, yeah, woo! Like, in this one span of 5 minutes. Like, why is he cheering so much? Why is he so excited? Obviously, by the way, so this guy shouldn't have been this excited. He should have been, paying more attention because not everything goes well for him. And you'll see what happens to him eventually. But yeah, the friends have to deal with a lot of different problems and things that arise, and this biker gang plays a part in it too, which I found ridiculous. I hated the biker gang so much. I couldn't even believe how much I hated them. I loathed them. Their characters were so freaking, I don't know, horrific, terrible, mean. I hated them. I just wanted them to go away. I wanted them to get eaten. It's one of those cases again. It's like the Josh Gad character, like the guy from Train from Busan or Train
Oh
to
yeah.
Busan. You want them to get eaten. Just I want these biker gangs to get eaten. So yeah, it was a crazy time. Obviously of its time too, though. It's definitely from the late 70s. You could totally get that vibe from watching it. The effects aren't top notch, but still enjoyable, still fun. So glad I watched it because now I could finally say that I've seen something that is kind of essential
Mhm.
viewing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and now you can kind of see like parts of it that were a nod in Shaun of the
Yes.
Dead.
And I did catch a whole bunch of things that Shaun of the Dead, paid reference to. And I loved that. As I was watching, I was trying to pay attention as much as I could. Like, oh, make sure I really, really tried to think back to Shaun of the Dead
Mhm.
and catch all those comparisons. It was a good time, I gotta say. So I watched that, I think last night it was. So really, it's very fresh in my mind. It was a lot of fun. The yeehaws, though, a lot of yeehaws or yippies, or I don't even know what you want to call these shouts of excitement, but it was over the top. That was the biggest criticism. But at the same time, it was fun and funny. So I was glad that they were in there in a way.
Well, I'm glad you found it. I just
Yeah.
think it's just really funny the whole
Yeah.
it's a good thing that neither you nor I found the DVD
Yes.
at Second and Charles.
Well, that's why I texted you. Another reason I texted you right away, because I knew you had looked for it for me. I'm like, I better tell her now that I found it, or else she might find it and buy it for me. And then I'll have to tell her, oh, wait, I found it because I'm a dummy and didn't check my DVD rack. I had it all along. But I didn't buy it. I know it must have been from Burke. I have a feeling it was a gift from my friend who just gave it to me after he watched it. So
Right.
I would have remembered buying it. I definitely didn't. But yeah, it's so funny that I had it. And it was very convenient because otherwise I don't know how I would have watched it. That brings us to a whole other thing. How is this not streaming anywhere? It's so
I
weird.
know it is very odd to me too. You would think it would be. I mean,
Yeah,
considering,
it's a
how old it
classic.
is.
Yeah. So before I throw it to you, because you've got a lot to talk about, you had a lot more viewing and reading. I do want to quickly say the rating 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb. It got a 94% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That's no surprise. It is a classic, as I said. 71% on Metacritic, and 92% of Google users like it. So a lot of people love this movie, and I'm so glad I watched it. So that was my zombie marathon. I think it was a success. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I basically didn't hate any of the films, so that's good. But let's get to your marathon because you had a few more things before you were done. What did you do, Kat?
Well, I had four extra films than you did. The first one that I'm going to talk about is Slither, which is actually a rewatch for me. It's came out in 2006. The director is James Gunn. This is actually it was his directorial debut. If anybody knows James Gunn, he's the one that
Yes.
wrote the 2004 Dawn of the Dead. Zack Snyder directed it, but he wrote it. And he's also Guardians of the Galaxy fame. But anyway, it's an American film. It's about a small town is taken over by an alien plague, which turns the residents into zombies and all forms of mutant monsters. So the zombie outbreak is due to a parasitic organism. Um, this movie has an awesome cast. Nathan Fillion of Firefly fame. He was also in Guardians of the Galaxy. He plays one of the monsters that's in jail. Michael Rooker, who's one of my favorites from from The Walking Dead, and then also Guardians of the Galaxy. I actually met Michael Rooker at Comic-Con one
Oh,
year, and Andrew and I took a picture with him.
cool.
Yes, he was very sweet, fun to talk to. Jenna Fisher is in it from The Office fame. And also a little tidbit, if you didn't know this, Jenna Fisher was actually married to James Gunn.
I actually didn't
That,
know that.
yes, they were married
Wow.
for 7 years and divorced amicably. And she's since been, remarried, but they have remained friends.
Do they have kids together? Do you
No
know?
kids together. She actually is married to Lee Kirk now, and she has two kids with Lee Kirk, who is also a filmmaker. Um, Elizabeth Banks is in it. You might know her from the
Wow.
Hunger Game fame from that franchise. Dustin Milligan, if you know anything about Schitt's Creek, he plays Ted.
Yeah.
So really
Oh,
awesome. It was such a surprise because I had seen it before, and that was before I had seen Schitt's Creek. So now
oh,
when I saw him in it, I was like, wow, I can't believe he's in it. Rob Zombie is actually in this film, but you
really?
don't see him. You do not see him. He is actually the voice of Dr. Carl. So there
Oh,
is a part where Elizabeth Banks, who plays Starla, calls Dr. Carl to find out what's wrong with her husband, Grant. And Michael Rooker plays the husband. So, basically, Michael Rooker's character, Grant, is the one who comes in contact with this parasitic organism and, then changes. And then we have lots of chaos in this town. I think it's a fabulous movie. It's comedy horror. So, it's one of those movies that there's some cheese in it, but then there's a lot of other great parts too. James Gunn actually chose Elizabeth Banks because he wanted someone that had like a Hitchcock blonde look. And he felt like she had that old time grace to her. And so that's where he was going with that. Jenna Fisher, talk about Tig not being an original cast. Jenna Fisher was not originally cast in this film, which I thought was kind of surprising. I just assumed because they were married that
yeah.
she would have a part in the film. She was not originally cast. What the actor who plays her part, she plays a secretary at the police station. And the guy who originally was actually a guy who played originally the part, he wanted to get out of his contract so that he could go audition for something for pilot season.
Right.
So he begged to get out of this. And
Wow.
James Gunn was like, sure, because he didn't want an actor on his set that didn't really want to be there.
Right.
So he cut him loose and then gave Jenna Fisher the part and also gave her additional lines. Well, of course, she was extremely excited. And I think she got the news like for her birthday or something like that. But she was extremely excited because she had always wanted to be in a zombie movie. So I just thought that was pretty interesting. Um, a little tidbit here: there's a character named Brenda who Michael Rooker's character visits, and her uncle happens to be Randy Flagg, which is a nod to Randall Flagg from The Stand.
Yes, I just read The Stand, so I know who you're talking about. I
And
know
so
the
when you think
character.
about it, The Stand wasn't that about a plague?
Yes.
That comes into, so pretty interesting that they did a lot of different name choices in there. And I need to research that just for the fun of it, because some of it I didn't catch because either I haven't seen the movies or I'm familiar with the information with that. Also, too, it's a type of film you need to watch to the end of the credits, because there is a little nugget at the end that is pretty funny, I think. But the film overall is just lots of fun, lots of gore. It's an alien invasion that would remind you of alien invasions from like the 50s. IMDb gave it a 6.5 out of 10. 86% Rotten Tomatoes and 81% for Google users. So, I mean, I think that's pretty great
Yeah.
for it. But I highly recommend it to anyone who likes comedy horror and
Yes.
likes the zombie genre.
So you know what, real quick, it seems like I have to add this movie for next year.
Yes, I would
100%.
definitely. I definitely
Yes.
would do. I think you would love it. I mean,
It
it
sounds
really, really
awesome.
is. I mean, it's fabulous. The first time we had watched it, I want to say, was when I did my other zombie apocalypse, my zombie awareness month. And it was on my list and back in 2012. And Barry and I watched it for the first time and we just thought it was hilarious. So I'm like, you know what? It's been a while. I want to watch it again. I loved it.
Well, I'm definitely
So,
adding it. Next year, it's official. I'm making it official now. It's going on the list.
well, my next film is actually it's a Canadian film, but it's in French. So it's called Ravenous. Don't get it confused with another title called Ravenous. It's Ravenous. It was in 2017. It came out Les Affames. I mean, I studied French, but it's been so long, and
Yeah.
I think I'm messing it up. But anyway, you can find it under that title, but also under Ravenous. It is streaming currently on Netflix. That's how I found it. I just wanted to see what they had in their library. Um, the premise of it is, in a small remote village in northern Quebec, people have been affected after an apocalypse, and it turns them into ravenous zombies. The few survivors that are left are trying to make it into the big city, because again, they think it's an isolated little town thing that's happening. They think they're going to be able to find, a better situation elsewhere. So the thing about it is, the outbreak is caused by something mysterious. It's never explained. And I found out a little bit of tidbits because there's an article that was written with an interview with the director, who is Robin Aubert. And this is another film that's like a horror drama.
Right.
It's very slow going. I liked it because there was a lot of heart, there was a lot of emotion in it. But this was one of the quotes about, why he does not explain what happened, what caused the zombie apocalypse. He says, I feel like we're surrounded by zombies already. We don't need the infection for that. That's why I didn't explain where the infection came from. We don't need that. We're already a little crazy in this society. So he feels humans are actually scarier than zombies.
Right.
And so that was the premise of it. The zombies in this film, they actually scream. It's almost like they do feel some kind of emotion, but not in the same way like in Army of the Dead or The Girl with All the Gifts.
Right.
It's more like a rage or a sadness, because they know that they're in this body now. It's like they still know that they were a person at one time, is the
Right.
premise behind that. And it's partly because they knew they were human at one point and they're no longer human, so they've lost that control of it. Another thing that the director had pointed out is that if the zombie world exists ever, the women are going to be the survivors, because he feels that the men are too weak. And the characters in the film, you have some very strong characters, and they end up making better decisions than some of the men make.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I mean,
Clear
like I said,
thinkers.
he thinks that they are the article that I found this information out is it's called the director of Netflix's zombie film Les Affamés says people are scarier than zombies. But I thought that was pretty interesting because, like I said, strong women characters, um, reasons why the people end up in the consequences with the consequences that they get is because of human error. um, Another thing I found that was kind of interesting is there seems to be like a little religious aspect to it because the zombies are capable of doing something and they come to this place and it's almost like in like an adoration or worship type
Wow.
sense, which I thought was kind of unusual. I've never seen that before. I liked it. I thought it was emotional. It has the same kind of feel of like The Walking Dead with characters, just a little bit slower. It was well acted, suspenseful in parts, beautiful cinematography. It
Right.
was shot really well. There is a scene that takes place in the mist that is extremely tense. It is definitely not a happily ever after movie, kind of along the same lines of The Girl with All the Gifts.
Right.
But I loved the ending scene though. It came like full circle from how the film started. So I did like that part of it. I mean, what ends up happening in the end is not so great, but that last scene just was awesome. It ended like on a lighter note. This was actually the first film that I watched to kick off my marathon,
Oh,
so, but anyway, one critic felt it was an allegory for what was going on with politics in Quebec. Another critic felt the themes of survival were kind of similar to the 1968 version of The Night of the Living Dead, which I thought was interesting. And partly it's because there's comparisons with it because there's social identity and how society is already being zombified. And
wow.
so that's how they kind of made that comparison. 5.9 out of 10 on IMDb, 88% Rotten Tomatoes, which I thought was good.
Yeah.
Now, it did have low Google users, which,
Really?
yes, which I was kind of surprised, 57%, which I was kind
Wow.
of surprised by that, considering it had such good reviews with the critics.
Sometimes that happens. I don't know why, but it happens every now and then.
Well, I do think if you're the person that doesn't want to be invested, if you're one that doesn't like the type of movies that are more like horror drama with that
Yeah.
emotional aspect to it, you're not going to like that type of film.
Right.
Which I do like it. I like character driven, stories.
Me
So
too.
I would definitely recommend it for people to watch.
I might add that
Um,
one too. It sounds very different, very unique for sure.
Well, the next one I have is a little bit different. It's definitely not comedy horror. It is horror. It's along the same lines of like Train to Busan, I think. It is a South Korean film. Interestingly enough, out of my 10 films, 5 of them were foreign and 5 of them were American.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, halfway, because if you think about Little Monsters has American in it, but
Yes.
it's also takes place in Australia, but so maybe 4.5 American,
That works.
5.5 foreign. Anyway, this movie, it does have subtitles. It's called #Alive 2020. It came out, which is fitting because it came out when we're having a pandemic.
Yeah.
The premise is it's a rapid spread of a mysterious infection leaves an entire city in chaos, but this tells the story of one survivor who happens to be an online gamer and how he's living in isolation. So it kind of reminds me of the I Am Legend, where he's pretty much
Right.
left on his own. He has no idea where his family is. His neighbors are basically dropping like flies. The zombies are fast in this and they are vicious. That's the one thing I'll have to say about that. They really are vicious. I would not be able to survive in
You're
a city
sure?
that no, because I would be terrified, first of all, to even go out to even hunt for food,
Yeah.
because they're terrible. I mean, they kind of like, go into like a hibernating kind of, state. But then if something attracts their attention, they're like crazy.
Oh my gosh.
I thought it was great though. I really did think it was great. Like I said, they're fast, they're vicious. You can clearly see why the city falls into ruin so quickly,
Right.
because you just don't have enough time. And then there's so many scenes where, you know, people are trying to get to somewhere safe, and you just know they're not going to make it. And
Yeah.
it's just terrible, to watch what happens to them. So lots, if you like gore, you'll definitely like this movie for
Sounds
sure.
good.
6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 88% Rotten Tomatoes, and 83% Google users. So again, if you are not bothered by subtitles, I would definitely recommend it. The little guy who plays the main character is precious, and I think he did a terrific job in the movie. So it's one that you're like on edge, when you're watching the movie. And then my last one, last but not least, I'm glad I watched it, but craziness. It's called KL Zombie. Came out in 2013. It's Malaysian. Again, foreign film, Malaysian, and subtitles. It is comedy horror. The director is Ming Jin Woo. Never heard of him. Never heard of any of the people in this film. It tells the story of a slacker named Nippus who becomes a reluctant hero when a zombie outbreak robs him of the only life he knows.
Oh,
He's a slacker. He delivers pizza. He does all kinds of weird bike tricks. There's like this one scene where he's riding on his little moped bike thing, and a group of guys come on theirs, and they're kind of surrounding him. And so you're like, what's going to go? And then it's like a moped trick dance off. It's the weirdest, craziest thing
that
I've ever
sounds so
seen in my
random.
life. It's just hilarious. Um,
Moped
it,
dance off.
yes, it is just crazy. They're doing all these tricks, and it's just like, what the heck? You're in the middle of this zombie outbreak, which this outbreak is actually caused by a dog bite. So my assumption is the dog had the zombie virus. He bites one of their friends, and then they start feeling ill. And before you know it, you have this whole zombie apocalypse. It's just the zombies. Some of them are really kind of funny. I mean, the makeup and stuff wasn't too bad. I mean, it really is low budget. I mean, I have to say. Um, and it also has a nod to Shaun of the Dead. Instead of
Oh,
Nippus having a cricket bat that he's whacking everybody with,
yeah.
he has a hockey stick. And there's like even in this
Cool.
really crazy scene where he's in his like apartment or in his room, and he's like trying to figure out what he's going to do to kind of, defend himself. And then his eyes go to the wall, and it's his hockey sticks.
I like that. I like hockey, so that's a cool. There's a
So
hockey
it's just kind
stick.
of funny. Now, 4.5 out of 10 for IMDb,
That might be the
30,
lowest one we've talked about so far.
36% Rotten Tomatoes, and I couldn't find any Google users. But
Wow.
it is on Netflix. It is streaming. And like, if you just want to laugh and, have a like, oh, and it is the only zombie movie where there is a cure. And the cure
Oh.
is so bizarre. It basically circles back to the beginning, which opens up with a crazy commercial with this really cheesy dude. That's all I'm going to say about it. You'll have to watch it to check it out.
Honestly, my interest is peaked kind of. So the moped dance off, you had me there. So.
Yeah, it's really funny. I mean, I have to honestly say, out of all of my movies, I enjoyed watching all of my movies. And I don't know if it's just because I happen to love the zombie genre in general, that maybe I give it, I cut a little more slack, maybe.
Yeah. Well, no, I traditionally don't love zombie movies that much or zombie themed things. I mean, I didn't hate them. I just wasn't. It was my favorite. But this whole marathon, I think, has been really good. I mean, I didn't hate any of my movies at all. So, like you said, it's been overly enjoyable. And I would be somebody who would be harsh on these movies because usually it's not my favorite monster or not my favorite villain or whatever, not my favorite
Mhm.
antagonist type of thing. But no, it's been so enjoyable. I'm very happy with the movies I picked. I think our marathon was a success, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Thanks so much for doing this with me, Kat. But we're not done because you even have more thematic stuff you did.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I admit I was overly ambitious, and I think it's because it's been a while and I hadn't done anything since 2012. And I was kind of like, oh, I want to do all this stuff. I did all this research. I wasn't able to accomplish everything on my fun list, but I still I think I did a bunch
Yeah,
to
I do
celebrate the
too.
month. I mean, the good news is I will have things left over to watch and read for May of 2022, because I definitely would like to do this again. Some of the things that I did, I do own a zombie t-shirt. I ran a zombie race years ago, and I happened to pick it up from a vendor that happened to be there, and I love it. I wore it when we did our last chat,
Yep.
and it says "I love zombies," and it has a little heart. But anyway, I ended up wearing that. That's really the only zombie accessories or clothing that I own, which is kind of hard to believe. We made a zombie cocktail this month. I had
I
some
saw that
friends
on
come.
Facebook. It
Yes,
looked good.
my friends Shelly and Carrie came over to have some crawfish, and then we ended up having our drink night. We made the zombie cocktail. It has vodka in it, blue caraca, melon liqueur, sweet and sour mix, and pineapple juice. I have to say
Wow.
it was very tasty. So I would highly recommend people checking that out. I will include the recipe when I actually do my blog post on wrapping up our zombie marathon.
I will link Kat's blog below in the descriptions, guys. So if you want to, please go and follow her blog. She's got lots of good stuff, and she posts a lot about our thematic marathons. But in addition, she's got a whole bunch of awesome real life stuff too, and just random general stuff, book stuff, all kinds of things you could find on her blog. So please check it out below.
Oh, thanks, Kelsi. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You deserve it. You got great writing on that blog.
I also did a giveaway. It's the first time I've ever done a giveaway on my blog. I happened to give away a copy of the Zombie Survival Guide, and I have a winner, Dave Pazeski, who is also known as Good Guy Dave. He ended up winning a copy of it. He was very, very excited. I have sent the copy to him, and I asked him if he didn't mind if he would snap a picture for me and send it for me so that I could show everybody who the lucky winner was. And he was so gracious to be able to do that. So congratulations, Dave. I'm excited that you won a copy, and now you'll be able to learn all the tips that you need in order to survive if we ever end up with a zombie apocalypse.
It was so nice that Dave got to win, and he's a fellow book club member of ours, so that was really nice. Awesome stuff, and we're glad that he'll be able to survive if things go to hell.
Exactly, exactly. I read Dawn of the Dreadfuls by Steve Hawkins-Smith. It is actually a prequel to the Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. And I went ahead and read that one. I was hoping I could read the whole entire group of Pride and Prejudice Zombies collection, but I was only able to get through that one. It's actually pretty good if you like that kind of stuff. It's set in the time of Pride and Prejudice, and it's really neat. There's so many funny scenes in it. The descriptions, the things that happen to some of the characters. I mean, there's a little bit of romance involved in it. It's just
really like in Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, there's romance, there's like duels with zombies, and I don't know, it's just a lot of fun.
Does sound fun.
Now, I was going to read a book by Max Brooks, who's the author of the Zombie Survival Guide and also World War Z. It was called Closure Limited and Other Zombie Tales. But instead, I replaced it with the Zombie Survival Guide Recorded Attacks. So it's actually a graphic novel, and it is about the recorded attacks that are featured, some of the attacks, not all of them, that are featured in the Zombie Survival Guide. So I would check that out if you like graphic novels and you would like to know about real live situations where zombies attacked and killed people in our world.
So Max Brooks, he must like zombies.
He does. Yes, you need to check out his website. All kinds of zombie stuff on it.
I will.
I also read an article called A Zombie Apocalypse Prediction for 2021. CDC has a preparedness guide. It's by Bruce Y. Lee. It came out in May of 2021, May 4th, 2021 on Forbes.com. It compares some things with the COVID-19 virus, the mistakes we made in the United States,
Big
and how,
mistakes.
yes, the big mistakes we made, and that if we would end up with a zombie outbreak, we might not survive it because they would not be prepared, because they weren't prepared for
Yeah.
COVID-19.
Yeah.
And it's not to try to get too political with it, but that was the premise of how he opened up with this. And so he kind of like was kind of tongue in cheek, because he's like, even if our government's not going to be prepared, the CDC will be prepared for a zombie apocalypse. They have a guide. It is on cdc.gov.
It
You
is
need to check
great.
it out. They have an emergency kit that they're recommending that you get. Of course, they want you to get water, which is 1 gallon per person, per day. Food, non-perishable, if you can, because you're only going to have electricity for so long.
Right.
Covers it. Make sure your food covers enough of the food groups so that you can stay healthy. And I cracked up when I saw this, because I thought of you immediately, because I know of your love of marshmallow peeps. And
Yes.
he mentions in the article, eating nothing but marshmallow peeps could cause a problem.
Why? Why did
Because you don't want to just be eating sugar the whole time that
Well,
you're trying
yeah,
to
but it keeps you
survive.
alert. Just kidding.
And then it causes you to crash and fall asleep, and when you
That's
wake up,
true.
there's a zombie gnawing on your leg. But
It could be
anyway,
bad. Really could be bad. That is so great. Peeps, you think of me. I love
right.
peeps.
So, of course, you need medications, tools and supplies, sanitation and hygiene, clothing and bedding, important documents. They recommend your driver's license, your birth certificate, and probably a passport. I don't think you can get on a plane, but anyway, anything
Yeah.
that you can have to identify yourself. First aid supplies. You should also consider having a family plan, have a meeting with your family and have a
About the
plan, an
zombies.
emergency plan, a meeting place in case you are separated when the zombie apocalypse happens, emergency contacts, as well as an evacuation route, because these are all necessary. Now, of course, keep this in mind. All of this advice is also beneficial for other types of emergencies, such as floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, or hurricanes. So, while you are getting your emergency kit ready for the zombie apocalypse, think about it. Something else could happen and you'll be prepared, right?
You'll have everything ready to go.
The only other things I want to say is I did post daily on Facebook on my story. I put a little
Yes.
zombie, cartoon or, meme, whatever, just for the fun of it every day in May. And I did also watch a couple of television shows, not all the ones that I wanted to watch. I'm currently watching Fear the Walking Dead. We have one more episode. The finale is this upcoming Sunday, and then they go on hiatus until the next season. That's on AMC right now. Love the Walking Dead universe, anything to do with Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I watched an Indian television show called Batal, and it was pretty interesting. It's currently streaming on Netflix. If you're interested in it, it's only 1 season and it's only, I think, 5 episodes. When I had done a blog post and had shown a trailer in it. So if you want to check that out, you can kind of get a feel for it. Different premise of how the zombie outbreak happens there. Let's just say it has to do with a curse.
Cool.
And then I watched a British television show called Dead Set, and it takes place in basically on a television studio lot. They're filming a reality television show. There
Cool.
is there is a zombie outbreak, and needless to say, it infiltrates into the studio, and in that one, it kind of makes you angry because there is one human in that one that you want them to die, like
Yeah.
immediately, because they are basically what causes this not to have a happy ending. But really good, intense, lots of gore. I'm telling you, just
Wow.
good kills, very stressful. Again, I don't know if I would necessarily be able to survive the zombies in Dead Set, because they're just fast and they're vicious. The fast zombies, it's just too hard,
Yeah.
you know?
I like that's why slow ones seem more manageable. You could just have the short hair, tight clothing, move, get out of the way, push them over. And Dawn of the Dead, they just literally push these dudes over. Like they barely are hitting them. I'm like, this is ridiculous. But they are menacing when they get together and are like in a group swarming.
Exactly. I think the problem with people and the reason that they get attacked and they get bitten in movies with the slow zombies is because people don't really understand what's wrong with their family members. And so they think that they're just feeling sick. I mean, that was the case like in KL's Zombie,
Yeah.
that's how it was in Shaun of the Dead. I mean, they just think the people are feeling under the weather.
Right.
And so what ends up happening is they end up getting bit.
Yeah.
Like for example, Pete in Shaun of the Dead got bit by, he thought, a mugger. Well,
Right.
it wasn't that he was a mugger. It was because he was a zombie and he
Right.
wanted to eat Pete, So the thing about it is then, Pete is now going to turn into a zombie and now he's going to go. And so I think what it is you got one zombie that he bites somebody and then it becomes two zombies, then four zombies,
Yeah.
and then it just keeps on, growing.
Snowball.
Yes. And it's like before you know it, that's how you have your outbreak.
Yeah, I mean, the family members just sitting there, not feeling good. Next second, you come close to try to comfort them or talk to them, and they go, and that's it. And then it gets worse from there. Shit hits the fan. All right, well, that was awesome. Is that all the stuff that you did? That's all.
That is all the stuff that I did. And at first, when I thought, I was like, man, I didn't really do that much.
Are you kidding me?
But after just listing all this and explaining, I'm like, I was fairly busy.
I can't believe you even thought that for a second. I didn't do that much. You're like, you're right. You just did a ton. Like you just listed so much stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself, actually. So
it's quite a good list of accomplishments because me, I couldn't get through anything but 7 movies. But Zombies plural has 7 letters, so it matched. It was thematic. Even if I had to eliminate Dawn of the Dead and I wouldn't have found it randomly on DVD, 6 still would have counted because zombie singular has 6 letters. So either way, I was covered with my thematic numbers of films, whatever. Anyway, it was a good time. Just like Kat had a giveaway, by the way, I gave away the same book as her. I ran a giveaway contest, The Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brooks, and I have a winner I'd like to announce right now. So congratulations. Here's the reveal. Kelly Hooked on Books, you've won. And I want to thank everybody, though, that did comment on our video, because that was one of the ways to enter, was to comment on the video. And we had 4 or 5, maybe even 6 comments. So thank you all for commenting and entering technically into the contest. But congratulations, Kelly. You've won. And I've been enjoying, because actually I know Kelly from Instagram. And so I've been enjoying talking to her on there. So congratulations. I'm very excited for you. And I will contact you and get your address information soon. So yay.
Congratulations, Kelly.
Yay.
You too will be able to survive the zombie apocalypse.
Yes. I'm so happy. I'm glad nice people will get to go on and know how to survive. And humanity won't be full of assholes like in all these zombie films, apparently. So that's a good thing. We need more nice people to survive, not just the jerks. All right. So that was a good time. And thank you, Kat, for inspiring the giveaway. I really appreciate you.
It was fun.
It really was. The whole month was fun. Thank you for kicking it off so quickly, because I do have to wrap it up. I've got to go somewhere after this, but we're going to do our rankings. We can't leave without ranking our movies that we watched. So I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to kick it to Kat. So my rankings, I'm going to go from number 7 to 1, because I watched 7 films. So least favorite to favorite. Now, it doesn't mean that I hate any of them, because I had a good time, as I've already said. I've really enjoyed all of them. So it's really just, there's ones that I liked more than others. And 6 and 5, I'm going to have to explain, because it might shock people like Kat already. I'm going to be in the doghouse. All right, here we go. Number 7, I Am Legend. It's not that it's bad. It's not that I don't like it, because I've loved it for years. I saw it in the theater, as I said. It's just that I was so shocked and taken aback by, I just couldn't remember that the effects looked like that. I was like, am I seeing a different film? What's going on? Anyway, number 7, because of that. I just kept getting distracted while watching. Number 6, don't hate me, Shaun of the Dead.
What?
Not because I didn't like it. And number 5 is Army of the Dead. Now, they could easily be swapped. The reason they're not swapped is because I'm biased and love Dave Bautista. That is the only reason. Technically, Shaun of the Dead is better, but I love Dave Bautista. So number 5 is Army of the Dead. It beats Shaun of the Dead. I'm so sorry. I'm going quick because I just want to get past the sadness. All right, I'm so sorry. Number 4, basically number 4 too is kind of a biased answer. The Girl with All the Gifts. Because I read the book, I had such a good time comparing it to the movie. I had to put the movie up there because actually I thought I would hate the movie. I watched the trailer months ago right after I read the book with Paul. We had watched the trailer and I said, I think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be corny. And it surprised me by how much I liked it and how much the acting was better than I thought it would be from the trailer. I don't know why the trailer, I didn't like it. But anyway, because of that and the surprising nature of it, I was like, I guess I liked it more than I thought I would. So that's why it's number 4. Otherwise, that could technically be, closer to 7 than Shaun of the Dead, but it's just all these stupid little personal reasons that I have them ranked this way, which, I mean, ranking is subjective, so it is what it is. All right, number 3, Dawn of the Dead, because it's a classic, really. I mean, there's some dated stuff about it. It's so 70s in its language and dialogue, but I love that about it. But yeah, definitely a little corny, but in a good, great way, in a total 70s way. Number 2, just a fun time, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. And maybe that's why it's so high. Then finally, number 1, another movie that took me by surprise. The heart really is what shined, and that's why it's number 1. Little Monsters, comedy, heart, horror. It had everything you could want in a horror movie, in just a plain movie. Even if you don't like horror, you could like this movie, and that's what I like about it. It's kind of universal in that anyone could watch it and be like, yeah, this is a comforting, good time. This is funny, this is fun, but also a little scary too. So it had it all. That's why it's number 1. Go ahead, Kat.
Well, I like your rankings, even though I'm a little sad at where Sean
so sorry.
fell.
I'm so sorry. I was like, she's gonna kill me when she sees this list. She's gonna be so bummed. It's not that I didn't like it, Kat. I really much did.
I know. I mean, you have to give them a place, and that's the thing that's kind of hard about when you do a ranking, because also depending on the day, sometimes like I'll make my ranking and then I'll go back and I'll change it. But anyway, I have to say I enjoyed all of my movies on my list. I might not watch some of them a second time, but I did enjoy them. Yes. My number 10 was KL Zombie, which I'm wondering if it's supposed to be Kill Zombie, but anyway, KL Zombie, the Malaysian movie.
Right.
Number 9, Army of the Dead. Not surprising.
That's okay.
Number 8, The Girl with All the Gifts. Number 7, Little Monsters. I think Josh Gad had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
Number 6, #Alive. Really liked it. Number 5, Ravenous. Number 4, Scout's Guide. That was really a pleasant surprise. I really did enjoy it. And it was kind of hard because really from 7 on up, I was back and forth. Yeah. So like you, it's little details that put it where it did. My number 3 was I Am Legend. And I don't know, I just have a soft spot for it. Maybe it's Sam the dog and
I love
Will
the dog.
Smith. I don't know. Number 2 is Slither. Definitely need to check that out for next year, Kelsi.
I will.
And of course, my number 1 is no surprise to anybody, including myself. Shaun of the Dead.
That must have been your easiest one to place, yes, at least. Yeah.
I just love it. I don't know why. I mean, there's other factors and other films that are kind of probably better in a sense. Yeah. I don't know if it's just because of the cast. I don't know what it is. I just love it. There's just a lot of different elements to it. I do like the cast. There's awesome actors in it. So I don't know. I have a soft spot for it.
I will say it's really hard when you have a marathon like this where you like so many of the movies. Yes. It's like, so nobody really finishes in last place. Because it's not like we were like with Rotten Tail, where like we hated it. That ranking was easier in the sense that there were movies that we literally did not like. And movies that we clearly liked more than others. Whereas this one, it's like kind of, I like them all. So it's a little different in that way, but made the ranking a lot tougher. I gotta say, it was kind of stressful, but luckily it wasn't too bad. I was more worried about reading it than ranking itself. I was like reading it because Kat's going to be like, Shaun of the Dead, no. So, but luckily you're not too upset.
Well, no, I will never, ever hold it against you where you rank a movie ever, because like you said, it's subjective. There are things that you like. There's, an actor that you might like, just whatever your reasoning for it, I mean, I definitely respect your decision of where you put it. I
And I
mean, at least
respect
you
yours.
still enjoyed it. Let's
I
put it that
did,
way. You
yes. I
still
enjoyed
enjoyed it.
everything. And the only one that I was like, was I Am Legend. It's not that I didn't enjoy it, but it's just like I was just so shocked by the difference, like in my memory. I don't know. It's like,
Well,
did
in
I
a
even
case like
watch
that,
it?
it's not like that you didn't like it. It's just that when you looked at the other movies that you had to compare it to, it just didn't, make the
Stand up to
cut.
the
Yes,
same,
it didn't.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
To the same level, kind of, especially with the effects, which I'm kind of more into now for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
But overall, very fun, very successful marathon. Thanks, guys, for watching us talk about it. Kat, do you want to say anything else about the categories or anything quickly?
No, I'm fine with it. I mean, I think that, like I said, I enjoyed everything that I watched this time. I enjoyed everything that I did for the month. I was a little disappointed I couldn't get to everything, but there's only so many hours in a day, and I'll actually be able to watch it next year,
Yeah,
So I mean, overall, I'm very pleased. I'm excited, and I'm
you
glad
should
that we did
be.
it.
You had so many good things that you watched. I mean, I've got things from your list that I have to add to mine for next year. So I'm happy that you watched as much as you did, because now I've got freaking suggestions for next year and plans already in the works.
And I don't have a ghost in my house. I actually have dogs. I noticed that my door keeps opening and closing throughout our chat. It's because my dogs want to come in and out.
Oh
So
man, Kat, you killed the allure because we thought it was zombies crawling on the floor. Ones that got their legs bitten off or cut off and they're still crawling, opening the door. We could have just thought it was zombies, which would have been very thematic and perfect for our chat.
Well, my dogs want me to finish with our chat also. Otherwise, they may actually start gnawing on my legs
Yeah,
to be able to go.
dog zombies. Not tigers, but dogs. That would have
Exactly,
been
dogs.
a lot cuter, I think, than that tiger. But anyway, thanks so much, Kat. It's been fun. Guys, stay tuned because me and Kat have more marathons planned, including a summer slasher marathon. I'm very pumped up about it. Should be a lot of fun. We'll have plenty of chats. We may even have a chat in person instead of on Zoom. Pretty exciting. I hope so too. We're both vaccinated, so that would be a lot of fun. But thanks, guys, for today. That's all for us. Appreciate you. Till next time, keep on killing it. And don't get eaten by
Yeah.
zombies.
Stay
Pick up the
safe.
book. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.